What's up, everybody, and welcome to... Look, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I want to talk to you. I've wanted to talk to you about this for a while. I understand that you have a lot of hard feelings about this, but I think it's important that we talk about this because it's something that's been bothering me, and it's something that I wanted to talk about. Anyways, welcome to today's video. Yeah, that was the stupidest intro I've done so far. I've realized as I come up with dumber and dumber intros to these videos, which is how this is going, by the way. Like, you've obviously noticed that I've been calling you guys different things, but like the intros to these videos are gonna get worse and worse as I move on in my life, and I hope you all are ready for that, because like you know, that's just the nature of life, baby. Welcome to another video. In today's video, I want to talk a little bit more about the upcoming release of the Live Blade Volt Pros. Live Blade Volt Pro, very exciting. I'm very happy about it. I think it turned out freaking awesome. They look fantastic, and one that especially looks fantastic is this one, my custom black and orange Volt Pro that I left the silver hardware in, so I decided to keep the silver hardware, and I think it looks freaking awesome, especially with the edge that I ground onto this thing, having that nice silver. It looks beautiful. So what I wanted to talk about was a few things that are updates related to the Volt Pro Live Blade. First of all, I was wrong about the price. That was actually a previous price. The actual price for the Volt Pro Live Blade is $159.99. So basically $160, not $175. I was overshooting it in my head a little bit. So yeah, it is actually a little bit cheaper than I thought it was, so that's very exciting. Let me know what you guys think of 160 bucks for the price. And speaking of that price, you're also going to want to know what is the blade steel. So the blade steel for this thing is AUS 10 or AUS 10. AUS 10 is a really nice blade steel that is a Japanese blade steel, AUS-10. If you want to look it up. AUS 10 is a Japanese blade steel that was created to have pretty good corrosion resistance and very nice edge retention, as well as durability. And I think it's a very good choice for a balisong blade because, you know, we want that edge to remain nice and durable, because obviously we're going to be literally dropping it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about AUS 10. That is the blade steel, so I wanted to make sure that you guys knew what that is. But yeah, that's the upcoming information about this guy. It's going to be 159 bucks. It's going to be AUS 10 blade steel, so it's cheaper than I thought it was, and it's going to come in all the colors that it already does, but with a live blade now. But the other thing I really wanted to talk about is the elephant in my drawers, or in the room. In this room. Well, not in this room, because this isn't really a room. Technically, I'm outside, but there's like plastic here, so it's kind of a room. I made it a room. It's not an elephant either. It's actually on this table. It's a Cygnusi. The Cygnus that I just exploded everywhere. This is the LDY Cygnus, and obviously, in the last video, people talked about how that blade sure does look familiar, Will, to something that we've seen before, Will. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And then people are like, hey, Will, the handles sure look familiar to something we've seen before, Will. And I'm like, yeah, I know, look, I get it. You guys are right. No, I don't want to deny anything like that because that would be disingenuous of me. As I've said before, the Cygnus did literally directly inspire the Volt Pro. There were other things that inspired it, but the Cygnus did directly inspire the Volt Pro. When it comes to this integrated G10, obviously I created my own pattern and my own way of doing the integrated G10. I didn't just copy what they did and implement it on my own thing, but there is absolutely direct inspiration happening between these two. I need to give LDY full credit for that, and I don't want to act like I'm not. However, what I do want to talk about is the blade, because sure, I understand why people are like, yeah, well, the Volt Pro blade looks a lot like the LDY Cygnus blade, but actually it doesn't. You see, when you actually overlay the, profiles of these blades, they don't actually match very much at all. The spine is in a completely different place. The way that the actual edge goes is completely different. You can see the edge on here goes up and then goes way high, where I decided to take it more down through the middle. These are just Bowie blades. The other thing is that there's a compound grind happening at the front of the LDY blade that just simply does not exist on the Volt Pro blade. But obviously the blade design is different. However, this is the elephant in the room. It's this cutout. It's called a fuller, to those that don't know what a fuller is. It's called a fuller. It's something that exists on a lot of balisong blades. And this design on the Volt Pro looks basically identical but bigger to the one on the LDY Cygnus. And that is just true. I can't deny that because it's literally true. It looks basically exactly the same. However, I didn't design this blade based off the LDY Cygnus. I designed the handles inspired by the LDY Cygnus. I didn't design the handles based off the LDY Cygnus, obviously, but the handle design was inspired by the Cygnus. However, this blade I did not reference for my blade. Instead, the blade that I referenced for my blade, as you can see, is the trainer blade. It is the same exact blade, and that cutout is the cutout from the trainer blade. It's the same thing. So it's not that LDY, like, that I copied the thing from LDY, though I can absolutely understand why that might be a thought. It's that I copied it from myself, and that shape has existed for a long time. Obviously, it got changed and shortened on the new version, the updated version, but the original version of that shape existing has existed for years at this point, before the Cygnus was even created on the original Volt, and then it was changed and shortened, and then I just put it directly onto the Volt Pro live blade. So, well, yes, I absolutely understand, and I do agree. Look, people have called me a bit on my hubris of being like, hey, you talk a lot of shit about Marcolo for being a clone company while they're making designs like the C116, and you're saying that it's like Mako adjacent, and yet your blade is very adjacent to the LDY Cygnus. And you know what? I agree with that. I think you're totally right. I think that it is a bit disingenuous of me to be like, well, the C116 is a clone because it kind of looks like a Mako blade because there's a mouth at the end, and then say that my thing isn't a clone, even though I basically copied this shape into my thing. Which, by the way, if you guys didn't know, you know what, I'm going to save this point. I'm going to finish my first point, because they're saying that I copied this thing. And you know what? I agree with you. You're right. It is disingenuous for me to do that. The truth is, the C116 is not a clone, and saying that it is clone adjacent may be slightly true, but it isn't a clone, and it was an overreaction in that video, in the Amazon clones video, Amazon buying things that turned into an Amazon clones video on my main channel a while ago. It was disingenuous to say that. I honestly completely agree, and I'm sorry for that. However, I do want to bring up that there is a difference in terms of what's going on here versus what's going on with the C116, right? The reason that this blade has this fuller in this shape on this spot isn't because I copied the LDY Cygnus and then changed it slightly so that it was my own design, and then could sell it, you know, on Amazon or whatever. The reason that this fuller is in this spot is because it is literally from a design I had previously created that I wanted to call back to. And the reason that the fuller exists and is the size that it is and is the depth that it is because it literally, a fuller exists on a blade in general to reduce the weight of that blade. So on like a large Bowie knife or on a sword, the fuller is that part in the middle that's been carved out to reduce the overall weight of a sword or a large knife or even a pocket knife. Pocket knives have fullers. Sometimes people call them blood grooves, but a blood groove and a fuller are actually two completely different things. But anyways, this is technically a fuller on this Bowie knife. And what it is doing functionality-wise is it is actually reducing the weight of the blade so that it matches the weight of the trainer perfectly. I wanted these two to flip very, very similarly, and I wanted their balance to be as close as possible and stuff like that. So this fuller is actually serving a very important functional purpose of removing weight from the blade so that it matches. Otherwise, this entire area on both sides would be solid steel, which would increase the weight of the blade and make it flip substantially worse. So it does actually serve a functional purpose. And it's not just that I copied the design from this and changed it slightly without thinking about its function. What I was getting at when I talk about the C116 is that that blade design wasn't something that they created for a functionality or design purpose. The blade design on the C116, because we know that Marcolo is armed shark. Wow, I'm sorry, I can't flip and talk about this at the same time for some reason. I'm gonna flip my black and red one, actually, or my black and orange one, because that's my favorite. We know that Marcolo is armed shark, that they are at least related, but are almost certainly the same company. So, when you see the C116, what you're seeing isn't someone's idea that they came up with, right? There's not a functionality explainable reason that there is a mouth at the end of the C116 blade. Instead, the C116 blade is their Mako trainer clone adjusted to not be that anymore. That's the difference. That's what I was trying to get at there, is that, like, yeah, I get it. I understand that my blade looks like this blade, but I know how I designed this blade. I have all the documentation as to how I designed this blade, and I can explain to you every decision that was made and the reasons for those decisions. Whereas the C116, that blade on that balisong is almost certainly the file from the original Mako clone that they created that they then adjusted to no longer be a Mako clone. And is that good that it's not a Mako clone? Yes, absolutely. I agree that it is not a Mako clone. However, I think it is very important to understand the context in which we're talking about something. You know, if you're taking these things at face value, then sure, it isn't a clone. But when you start to understand that it was created by a real clone company, it most likely, and it does take a lot of influence from the Mako, the more you think about it, the more you'll sort of realize that the reason that it has a bottle opener in that shape on the front of the blade isn't because they thought that that would be a good idea. It's because Squid Industries already did it, and they had already cloned one of their products, and so they decided to implement that exact design feature that they had previously cloned in a slightly different way on a product to call it original. That's the difference. It's the same thing as, like, why is there a bottle opener on the Vulp and Vulp Pro blades as a bite handle indicator? Well, the reason for that, as I've talked about previously, is because the Ryworks Omime did that first. Ryworks, a wonderful Japanese mater, Ryworks, a wonderful Japanese mater, toe mater, created a great idea with his original trainer blade that had a bottle opener in this exact spot as the bite handle marker, and it worked extremely well. And the idea here is the same. You know, I went and I used that idea and then implemented it in my own way. And that is okay. It is okay to take things. And it could be argued that that's what the C116 is. And if you argued that, I wouldn't disagree with you entirely. Because I do think that it is worth allowing ideas to be used in that way. I don't think that copyright is a end-all, be-all good thing, truthfully, at the end of the day. It stifles creativity, and trademarking and copywriting of ideas causes stagnation in industries. So I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. But what I'm getting at is that Marcolo, and by extension, Armed Shark, are companies that have made their entire foundation of their brand and all of the money they've created off of directly stealing designs from people. that's the context that you have to have when you interact with their designs on somewhere like Amazon or whatnot. And so when you actually think about it in that light, that's where stuff like, yeah, the C116, sure, it's not a clone, but is it a clone in the, like, work sense? Is this an example of somebody who just thought that the Mako is a great idea and then designed their own balisong? Or is this the sense of somebody wanted to make a quick buck by releasing a balisong on Amazon after a certain other maker started releasing balisongs on Amazon that had gone extremely well, and they wanted to make a quick buck, and so they modified the files from one of their clones that they already had, which they know they can't sell on Amazon, until it was just distinct enough that they could sell it on Amazon. I don't know. That's not my call to make, but that is my argument in this sense. So I would like to hear y'all's opinions on this, especially those that commented on the last video and talked about the similarities between these two balisongs, because I think your opinions are valid. I do enjoy talking about these things. I do enjoy people, quote unquote, calling me out or whatever about these things, because we have productive conversations. I think it's a good thing for us to talk about. So anyways, that's all I wanted to kind of get into today, is talking about the Live Blade, telling you that it will be available soon, more information about it. Once again, it's $159. But also I really wanted to talk about the LDY Cygnus and how, like, yeah, I understand that the blades look very similar, but I can tell you exactly how I designed this blade, and it didn't have anything to do with the LDY Cygnus. Actually, the main blade that this takes from profile-wise is my, wow, I completely lost my train of thought mid-sentence. It's my Talisong, my actual Talisong, like my Elden Tally Talisong. The buoy blade on this, buoy slash Weehawk. This is a buoy, the Talisong is a Weehawk, but when it comes to, like, the curvature of the overall thing, it was much more inspired. And to be fair, when I say this was much more inspired, not the Live Blade. This, the trainer blade, the actual profile of it, was much more inspired by buoy designs from other places, especially, as I said, my Talisong. That's where I got a lot of the inspiration for the actual blade shape here, and kind of how I refined the original shape, which was much more blocky when you look at it now, of the original Vulp, and then created the Vulp Pro. And then I took this profile on the Vulp Pro and I turned it into this shape. It's the same exact profile, obviously, as I said before. It is the exact same outline. I just had to decide where the grinds would go and how they would actually look to create a really nice and pretty buoy design. So anyways, let me know in the comments what you guys think about what I have to say. What do you think about how the Vulp looks similar to the LDY Cygnus? Do you think that's okay? Do you think that's morally reprehensible? And also, what do you think about my opinion that, you know, there's importance to the idea of intentionality and also the context behind things. So, like, when we're talking about stuff in the future, you know, and we bring up Marcolo or whatever, I think it's important to talk about the context surrounding Marcolo more than just taking their designs at face value. Because taking their designs at face value is exactly what they want. They want you to look at their designs and be like, well, that's not a clone because it literally isn't. Whereas it's not whether or not it is literally a clone. It is more important the context of they have been doing cloning for a very long time, and it's very likely, because all of these products are exactly the same. If you buy all three of them, you're basically getting scammed 2 times after you buy the first one. I think it's important to understand the context of the fact that not a lot of thought was put into those products, whereas a substantial amount of thought was put into all 3 of these products. So anyways, yeah, that's basically it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you later. Peace.